Emma Carson sat by the living room window, her hands wrapped around a steaming mug of tea. Outside, the sky was painted in soft shades of gray, and the first hints of autumn drifted lazily from the trees. The house was quiet to quieten the stillness, pressed against her chest like a weight she couldn't shake. Her husband, Daniel, was busy in the kitchen tidying dishes from dinner. Upstairs, their daughter Lily's laughter floated faintly through the hallway. A reminder of how life went on even when a part of her heart felt heavy. Emma loved her family deeply, but lately she had begun to feel a subtle ache she couldn't name. It wasn't sadness, exactly more like a quiet yearning for something just beyond reach. A sense that life held surprises she hadn't yet discovered. The evening felt ordinary, almost mundane. But there was a tension in Emma she couldn't ignore, a feeling that the calm was temporary. Sometimes, late at night, she would lie awake and think about all the what-ifs she had tucked away in the corners of her mind. What if a long-lost friend returned? What if a moment from the past came back to change everything? She had learned to hide these thoughts during the day, to smile at the little joys around her, but at night they crept back, persistent and unrelenting. Her gaze wandered to the clock above the fireplace. The hands moved steadily, a slow rhythm she had always found comforting. Yet tonight, even the familiar ticking sounded different. Almost impatient, as if time itself were waiting for something to happen then. The phone rang. Emma froze, her heart skipping a beat. Calls at this hour were rare. Most evenings ended in quiet conversations or shared silences with Daniel. She stared at the phone, unsure whether to answer. There was a strange mixture of curiosity and fear that fluttered in her chest. Her fingers trembled slightly as she picked it up, bracing herself for a voice she might not recognize, or perhaps one she had been waiting to hear without even knowing it. "Hello," she said softly, her voice almost swallowed by the hush of the house. There was a pause on the other end. Then a familiar voice spoke, hesitant, yet unmistakable. "Emma, it's been a long time." Her breath caught. The voice belonged to Michael, Daniel's younger brother, the one who had left town 10 years ago without a word, the one whose absence had left quiet holes in the lives of everyone he had loved. Emma hadn't expected to hear from him ever again, and yet here he was, as real as the autumn wind that pressed against the window panes. "Michael," she whispered, barely daring to believe it. "Yes, I know this is sudden. I need to come home," he said, his words heavy with something she couldn't name: regret, hope, or perhaps both. Emma felt a rush of emotions, surprise, anxiety, and a strange flicker of hope that made her chest feel lighter, almost impossible to breathe through. She held the phone tight, as if doing so could anchor the moment in reality. When she hung up, her hands were shaking. Daniel, who had been glancing toward the living room, noticed immediately. "Who was it?" he asked gently, concern lining his face. Emma's eyes met his, wide and uncertain. It's Michael," she said, the word feeling foreign yet significant on her lips. Daniel's brow furrowed. Michael had left 10 years ago, leaving behind unanswered questions and quiet tension that had never truly healed. And now, after all this time, he was coming back. Emma couldn't shake the feeling that the ordinary rhythm of their life had shifted in an instant. Something was about to change, she realized. Something that would ripple through their family, touching every quiet corner of their hearts. The following evening, the air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of fallen leaves and wood smoke. Emma stood at the window again, watching the headlights cut across the driveway. Her heart raced, a mix of excitement and nervous anticipation. Michael was coming home after 10 years, and with him came a flood of memories she hadn't allowed herself to revisit in a long time. Daniel was unusually quiet as he paced the living room, tight line across his jaw. Emma could feel the tension between them, the unspoken words, the years of silence, and the small resentments that had lingered like dust in the corners of their hearts. Yet beneath it all, she knew there was a bond stronger than time. A connection forged in childhood, laughter, and shared secrets. The sound of the car door slamming shut made Emma flinch. And then she saw him. Michael stepped onto the porch, a little older, a little wearier. but unmistakably the same boy who had once raced through their yard on summer evenings, calling Daniel his partner in crime. Emma remembered those days vividly, the way the two brothers had laughed until their cheeks hurt, the quiet nights when Michael would stay up talking about dreams he never shared with anyone else, the way Daniel had always been both his anchor and his challenger. Michael looked at the house, as if it had been waiting for him all these years. And when his eyes met Emma's, she felt a pang of something she hadn't expected: recognition, warmth, and a bittersweet ache she couldn't explain. Inside, the reunion was quiet at first. Daniel and Michael stood facing each other, their past grievances hanging in the air like an invisible wall. Emma watched, remembering all the nights she had whispered to herself that perhaps one day this moment would come. She remembered the small gestures that had once shown their closeness. Michael leaving little notes for Daniel when he traveled. Daniel covering for Michael's mistakes at school. The way they had shared everything without words. And she also remembered the moment that had driven them apart: a misunderstanding. A harsh word, pride, and a door slammed too soon. Dan. Michael finally spoke, his voice low but steady. "I'm sorry I left. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. I had to figure things out." Daniel's face softened slightly, but the tension remained. "You left us without a word. 10 years, Michael. 10 years of wondering why." Michael swallowed hard. "I know. I wasn't brave enough to face the consequences then. But I am now. I need to start over." Emma felt tears prick her eyes. She had watched these two men grow up together, and now she saw the fragile hope of reconnection stretching between them. She remembered her own quiet longing during those years, longing for things she could never fully name. Moments of empathy she had felt toward Michael that she hadn't dared acknowledge. The small warmth of shared smiles and unspoken understanding that had lingered in her heart even after he left. Lily wandered into the room, her eyes wide. "Uncle Michael," she asked softly, and the sound of her voice broke some of the tension. Michael knelt to her level, smiling gently. "Hey, kiddo, I've missed you." The simple exchange reminded everyone of what really mattered: the family. The shared history, the laughter that had once bound them together. And though the past had kept them apart for years, it had also laid the foundation for a reunion that was long overdue. Dinner that night was quiet but filled with small, significant gestures. Michael helped clear the dishes, and Daniel found himself sharing stories from their childhood that he had kept tucked away. Emma listened, heart full, as the old memories mingled with new beginnings, for the first time in a long while. It felt like the house was alive again, not just with the presence of Michael, but with the hope that old bonds could heal, and that love, in its many forms, could endure even the longest separations. Days passed, each one carrying the quiet rhythm of returning routines, but nothing felt ordinary anymore. Michael had settled back into the Carson household, helping Daniel with small repairs, sharing meals, and laughing with Lily in ways that reminded everyone of happier times. Emma watched it all with a mix of relief and unease. The house felt fuller, warmer, but the tension between the brothers had not entirely faded. One evening, a light drizzle began to fall outside, coating the driveway with a gentle shimmer. Emma was sitting by the window again, sipping tea, when she noticed Michael struggling to carry a stack of old photo albums from the attic. Without thinking, she rushed to help, and together they settled on the living room couch. The albums open across their laps. They began flipping through the pages, laughter and soft sighs punctuating the quiet. Emma's fingers lingered on a photograph of the two brothers as children, muddy knees and sunlit smiles frozen in time. Memories came rushing back: long bike rides down winding roads, whispered secrets late at night, and countless moments of trust and companionship. "Look at this one," Michael said, pointing to a picture of Daniel holding a makeshift sailboat. "You were always the brave one." Daniel had joined them without warning, leaning against the doorway. He chuckled softly. "And you were always the dreamer, Michael, always getting us into trouble." For a moment, the years melted away. It was as if time had paused, allowing them to remember who they had been before misunderstandings. Pride and distance had driven a wedge between them. Emma felt a warm sensation in her chest, the kind that comes when you witness something fragile begin to mend. Then, as if guided by fate, the lights flickered and the power went out. The room was dim, lit only by the soft glow of the rain-soaked street lamps outside. Michael grabbed a flashlight and they all huddled closer together on the couch, their laughter blending with the patter of rain. Emma noticed how natural it felt, how easy it was for old bonds to resurface once the barriers had been removed. And in that quiet, shared space, she realized something she hadn't allowed herself to acknowledge before. Her heart had quietly hoped for Michael's return, for the warmth he brought not just to